Live from the Jersey Shore to the world. Get up, get out, do something. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. Take the show wherever you go. Download the free Radio Pup app for your smartphone or tablet. Join the conversation. 732-505-1160. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Listen online at WOBMAM.com.
Welcome back. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. It is 7:08, Tuesday, May 31st. About 70 degrees out right now, getting a 78 today. WOBM AM 1160 and 1310 News Talk Radio. Streaming live on the Radio Pup app and WOBMAM.com, 732-505-1160. We're joined now in studio by Suzanne Porcelli, Supervisor of Special Services at Toms River Schools, and also Early Learning Center kind of leader of that whole program, which is at 1144 Hooper Avenue. If you're like, where is that? What is that all about? So good morning, Suzanne. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming in. So why don't you tell folks a little bit about what you do, particularly around the Early Learning Center?
Sure. So my title for the Early Learning Center is Supervisor of Instruction. So I have the unique opportunity of working with staff that really are there to develop the minds and skills of our young children ages 3 to 5. So we have inclusive programs, so that's for our students from the community whose parents are looking to provide an opportunity for them to enter school at the age of 3, as well as for our students who have learning disabilities, developmental delays, and are classified as preschool disabled.
Okay. So if they're preschool disabled, then parents so do parents contact Toms River Schools and say, I have a youngster who could use some additional help and we'd like to start early? Is that how that works?
Yes, that's typically how it works. We also have many families that are involved with early intervention, and that's a service throughout the state for children birth to 3 years old. So as early as birth, they're diagnosed with a disability or developmental delay. They receive services through early intervention, and then there's a transition, so they contact the local school system. So we are invited into the homes. We get to meet the families. We talk about the process ahead of time, and then there's a referral to the child study team at the preschool disabled program where we invite those families in and children, and there's a lot of conversation and assessment and observation. We also receive many referrals from the local pre-K nursery schools. So we have great relationships with the Westminster Nursery School, Peppermint Tree, Beechwood Nursery School, just to name a few. And we really work collaboratively with them. So if they have concern for a child who lives within the Toms River Regional Schools, they'll call us up. We have conversations. Sometimes we go to the centers. We observe children. We work with their staff as a collaboration to ensure that the knowledge that the staff at the Early Learning Center has is translated to assist all young children.
Okay. So then your job then really becomes to help these children as they transition into regular school in a perfect world, or to determine whether they're going to need additional support that maybe the school system wouldn't necessarily be able to give them, right?
Sure. Yeah, it's all of that. Okay. So really my main focus is ensuring that we have a program that meets the New Jersey state preschool standards. So approaches to learning, focusing on developmental skills, cognition, communication, fine motor, gross motor, socialization, providing a nurturing and safe environment for children to explore their environment. So once they're in the preschool, we work very hard and diligently to meet all the children's needs. We meet them where they're at. We have a well-rounded, exciting program. We bring in a lot of initiatives, technology, science, social studies, math within the course of the day. And then we prepare them, the children and their families, for that transition into kindergarten.
Cool. So now, side by side, is it side by side with these kids? There are other children who whose parents call and say, "Hey, listen, I'd love to have a tuition-based program through 1144 that my child can partake in."
Yes, so last year we started, it's at Silver Bay Elementary School. So right now we have 4 preschool disabled or preschool inclusion classes there for children ages 3 to 5. So if there's any family in the community that's looking to provide an enriched program within Toms River and within Toms River schools for children 3 to 5, there is a tuition-based program, a pre-K program. It's a morning session, 2.5 hours, and an afternoon session for 2.5 hours. And what's so nice about what we're able to provide is that we're using a state curriculum, approved curriculum, called Creative Curriculum. And Creative Curriculum is designed by the publisher Teaching Strategies. And so when the children get into kindergarten, we're using an assessment, which is TS Gold, which is a state standard. And so we're giving really our young children those experiences that they'll see in kindergarten. So from center-based instruction, from pre-literacy skills, mathematical skills, approaches to learning, so that they're used to coming to school, they understand the rules and routines of the school, they get to meet the principal and walk to the cafeteria, and they have time in the gym, so that it's a well-rounded program and really prepares the children to be very successful in kindergarten.
Okay. So is this something that so I'm sorry. So just you have to use very small words for me because I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, as anybody who listens to this show could certainly tell you. So you're telling me that there are classes that you oversee, these classes that take place at Silver Bay Elementary, but then there's other classes. There's a morning and an afternoon session for kids at 1144.
Correct.
That's for kids that haven't been identified as having developmental issues, et cetera. That this is just part of a curriculum to kind of that's kind of like a preschool on steroids type thing.
So not to confuse you.
Oh my God!
So I'll slow down. I'm sorry. So at the Early Learning Center, we have preschool disabled programs. So we have a morning and afternoon session.
Okay.
We have preschool autistic programs, and those are for our children who have a diagnosis on the spectrum, and they're a full day program. And then we have inclusion classes. So those are for our children who've been identified with a disability or delay, a mild delay, and are typically developing children that the families of Toms River, employees of Toms River, have their children coming to the Early Learning Center.
Okay. And then what happens at Silver Bay?
So at Silver Bay, we have so many children and parents interested in a program within Toms River Schools that we needed to expand our program to Silver Bay.
Suzanne, now I'm smelling what you're stepping in. Got it. I got it. So there's like 6 classes going on at one time, and they can't all fit at in the Early Learning Center.
Yeah, as we're working with early intervention and those young children, birth to 3, are being identified as delayed. They're coming into the public school, and we're assessing those children and finding them eligible. And so we are obligated to provide a program, which means following the New Jersey Administrative Code in terms of class size. And so we're finding the need to expand our program.
Okay, cool. So when we come back, I'd like to talk about, I know it's a very difficult decision, but I'd like to understand how you come to the decision that the school system just isn't able to necessarily provide for a child. But I'd also like to get your thoughts when we get back around, pre-kindergarten in general and the value of it and the pros and maybe even if there are cons to it, because the only con I see is the financial end of it. Suzanne Porcelli, Supervisor, Special Services, Toms River Schools, also talking Early Learning Center. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin back after this.
Get more Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin at our website, WOBMAM.com. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Now, back to Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310 and WOBMAM.com.
Hey, we're here with Suzanne Porcelli, Toms River Schools, talking about some of the special services we offer for kids. So why don't you tell me a little bit about first let's tie a ribbon on this other piece. So how do you? I mean, I know it can't be an easy decision, but how do you ultimately decide whether the school system is going to have the ability or not to provide the services necessary to best service a child?
Sure. That's a great question. So we really, with the child study team, every child under the child study team and special education has an individualized education plan. And that really tells the story about what the child requires to meet the educational demands within the classroom. We talk about related services and supplemental instruction. We talk about meeting the child where they're at and ensuring that those the education and instruction is layered and tailored to meet the child's needs. Once we exhaust all of the supplemental services, we bring in things that perhaps a child may benefit from, some strategies, accommodations, modifications. And after we've explored all of those, if the child is still not meeting with success, then it's really a conversation the child study team has to say, you know what, we've tried X, Y, and Z, and we're really not able to meet the child's needs at this time, even bringing in other materials, training for staff, again, supplemental materials, differentiated curriculum, and then we explore the need to perhaps look somewhere else for the educational placement of our children.
Right. Okay. So why don't you tell me a little bit about the Grow New Jersey Kids Grant? What is that all about?
Sure. So within the state of New Jersey, there is the Grow NJ Kids. It is a grant. It's a race to the top. And so schools and private pre-K programs have the opportunity to apply and be enrolled in the grant. Part of the grant is following, again, the preschool standards, NACE, the National Association for Educating Young Children, their standards, and really promoting a pre-K program of rigor. So, again, bringing what we know about development to a higher level. The grant then has us assessing the environment, assessing the child's learning. So we do some informal assessments of our children within the program to see if what we're providing for our young children is really beneficial and promoting their learning and ultimately getting them ready for future education, so that the state will come out and it'll rank or rate programs, and the outcome is that it allows the families within the community who are looking for a pre-K program information about local programs within their district or their town. So all of us who are involved in the grant will be rated, and it's really just giving the families access and communication about the experiences that their child will have.
Cool. So now I'm confused though, because it sounds like a really great opportunity. But you said it was called it's the National Association of Education it's the National Association for the Education of Young Children. Mm-hmm. All right, so I take exception to the fact that you call it NACE, because I see it looks like NAIC to me.
I know.
I'm just saying.
And I may be the only one who says that.
I'm just saying, okay, so that was you. So that wasn't like something you heard, right? You're taking creative license there.
Well, in special education, we work on mnemonics to help remember and recall. So that's one of my techniques to recall. So
that was your own angle there, huh?
Yes,
you went
it
with
was.
your own slant.
Correct.
All right, well, we're okay with that. I guess we'll have to let that slide. Suzanne, when we come back, we want to talk about what you're doing with your $10,000 grant, and also kind of your overall feelings of about pre-K, and what you would do with your Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin magic wand. That's super important. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin, Suzanne Porcelli, Toms River Schools, back after this.
The news never stops at WOBMAM.com. Get the latest from WOBM News, the Town Square, New Jersey News Network, and Fox News Radio. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. News Talk Radio, WOBMAM 1160 and 1310. Live from the Bob Levy Broadcast Center, overlooking the Toms River, it's time to get up, get out, do something. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. Be a part of the show, 732-505-1160. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Listen online at WOBMAM.com.
Hey, welcome back. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin, 7:35, Tuesday, May 31st, 70 degrees. Getting a 78 today, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. News Talk Radio, streaming live on the Radio Pup app and WOBMAM.com, 732-505-1160 to join our conversation. We are here with Suzanne Porcelli. We are talking about, we're talking about so many things that have to do with early childhood education, right? So you got this $10,000 grant, and so what are you guys doing with it? What are you doing with it to make it fun and exciting there?
Yes, thank you. We're so excited to have been awarded the grant. We had the opportunity this past school year to trial a smart table. So it's smart technology in a table so that the children had easy access to it. So even our children in wheelchairs were able to use the table. And what we saw in having that availability is our children who are nonverbal, our autistic children in particular, we heard language for the first time when they were able to use the table and interact with it, manipulate it. And so that was just so thrilling for the staff. So when this grant came my way, I said, you know what, let's talk about, as a community, some projects that we could develop, bringing our families in to experience their child using technology, to expand on language, to expand on social skills, to really expand just their environment, their curiosity to learn, so that with the table, we are creating a project, a classroom-based project involving the families where the children will be putting together stories that tell about them. So at the Early Learning Center, our focus this year has been celebrating the young child, celebrating the uniqueness of each child. So this is another layer of bringing that in. So our children come from a multitude of different backgrounds, and being able for them to identify what makes them unique and involving the parent, again, building on the vocabulary, and just getting them curious about learning.
Very cool. So, yeah, in case you don't know, so smart boards are typically what are used in most classes. I guess you don't think that a smart table is certainly more accessible for children that have, that have additional needs.
Correct.
So that's very cool. And then, I think rarely do folks we think very much about the children or about the individual who's impacted by a special need or by a developmental challenge, but rarely do we also think about how we can best service the family who deals with that every day and has that additional burden put on them. So really a great program and a great opportunity for further enrichment of these children and their families. So very, very cool. All right, Suzanne, it's time. Okay. All right. I'm not going to lie. So we go through like 20 minutes of discussion. And for me, it's like, do you remember the Peanuts?
Yes, of
right.
course.
So you remember the teacher in Peanuts? And I'm not trying to say this is you, obviously. Yeah. That's what I hear for 20 minutes with every guest that I have. Right. And I fight through it. I struggle through it. I get till the end because all I really want to know, Suzanne, is what you would do with the magic wand, with the pixie dust, with the fairy dust. If you could just wiggle your nose, if you could make an impact and change something, Suzanne, what would you do?
So we do that all day long at the Early Learning Center. We're throwing pixie dust and we're wiggling our nose. But if I had that power, focusing on our young children, the young children of today's society, no matter if you're in Toms River or where you are in the world. I think that if I had that magic wand, it would definitely be to ensure that all young children ages 3 to 5 have the availability to participate in an enriched preschool program. It's so key that we nurture young children. We nurture their curiosity by providing hands-on experiences. We motivate them to apply their skills, to just try, to be able to learn how to interact with other children. And isn't that so powerful to be able to provide socialization and those social experiences for young children, working them through that situation where they have to be flexible, where they need to wait, where it doesn't always turn out how they want. And I think when I'm looking at reading the newspaper, meeting with families, looking at literature and research, unfortunately, we're seeing many young children with a significant amount of stress in their lives.
Right.
And again, I think that's from society. And being able to have young children have that availability of a preschool room with talented teachers and professionals within the school to help build on their self-regulation, to give them the tools to take a deep breath, think about a different way. Let's try a different way. Again, providing it in a safe, nurturing environment so that they will take that chance to learn tools that will carry through the rest of their lives.
Wow. Really well said and well thought out. Suzanne Porcelli, let me just review what we learned today. We learned about all the great programs that are happening at the Early Learning Center, right? Both at 1144 and at Silver Bay Elementary. We learned about the Grow New Jersey Kids Grant, the Race to the Top. We learned about how you are creatively going to use the Jay and Linda Grunin Foundation grant to engage families as well as children with additional needs. And most importantly, we learned that the National Association of Educating Young Children can somehow be turned into an acronym NACY, which I don't get it. I still don't get it, but we're going to let it go. We're giving you creative license to make that happen.
Thank you. It's called mnemonics.
Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. Thank you so much, Suzanne Porcelli, for dropping some knowledge on us this morning, and continue to drop some knowledge on our youngsters as we go forward. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. We'll be back right after this.
Stay tuned for Preferred Company with Joel Markell and Marianne Levy at 8. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin continues next. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310.